Sometimes you walk through life alone, wondering if anyone understands what you are going through, hoping someone will listen and offer a word to make your day. The Church of God of Prophecy offers unconditional love and support, regardless of what you are going through. Visit cogop.ca for a location near you. The Church of God of Prophecy, developing authentic disciples of Christ.
On the Let's Talk television program, we share solutions to real-life problems with real people, showing how faith guides everyone through the storms of life. We talk about tough issues that affect all generations. Our conversations help you learn, grow, and lead. Help us continue with this great work by partnering with us today. Call 905-625-1278, extension 233, or visit letstalkca.org. We look forward to your partnership with us to change lives. Let's Talk, revealing the heart of Christ through engaging media conversations.
Good evening, and welcome to another segment of Let's Talk. I'm your host, Woodroe Thompson. Before we jump right into the show, I'd like to apologize for a late start, but we're so thankful that you've joined us this evening. As we continue to celebrate, educate, and experience Black History Month, my guest this evening is someone who has written over 14 volumes of literature for Black History Month. My guest is a multi-award winning poet, author, an arts educator. She's a Jamaican Canadian who has published 3 collections of poetry, 2 children's books, and over 14 volumes of literature, as I mentioned, for Black History Month. These creations are stapling the curricula of several schools in Canada in the celebration of Black History Month. She is a regular presenter at schools across Canada, including local universities, and was a distinguished guest speaker to the prestigious African Writers Club at the University of Vienna in May 2019. She was recently named the 100 Accomplished Black Canadian Women in January 2022. Help me welcome my guest, Nadine Williams. Welcome to Let's Talk.
Hi, good evening, and thank you so much, Bishop Thompson, for having me.
It is a pleasure to have you. And I'm going to jump right in, and I'm going to ask you to tell me about the immigrant child. I like that poetry, but tell me about the child herself.
The immigrant child. My story is not unlike quite a number of immigrant families in that my mom left to Jamaica for the greener pastures of Toronto.
Right.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, I can. You're good.
Awesome. Left me with 11 auntie and uncles and grandparents in the foothills of Junipen St. Mary Parish. And let me tell you, they made a poet out of me. The reading under the kerosene lamplight, I tell you, at the time, I had no idea what the value that was being deposited in me as a child. But certainly the love, you can imagine 11 auntie and uncles and grandparents, the language spoken in the home. My grandfather often would say, "You're going to Canada, the land of milk and honey." The poetic language spoken in the home formed the basis of who I am. And I joined my mom at age 15, my brother and I.
Good. Well, I can relate. I remember the kerosene lamp. I remember the family dynamic. But what was the inspiration behind the poem? I think that poem is well written. It's a great poem. But what's the inspiration? What was the vision behind that poem, The Immigrant Child?
The Immigrant Child, it was definitely that line from my grandfather. "You're going to Canada, the land of milk and honey." So I had recently given up the good life as I knew it. And when I say good life, I'm talking, the materialistic life where you have the house that sits on the ravine, the car. You don't know what it's like to take the bus. You pass people at the bus stop. You run out at the house at 6 a.m. and run back in at around 8 o'clock. I had a nice supervisory job at a travel insurance firm in Toronto. And some things shifted in my life, which required me. I became a single mom, to be honest, a single mom of 3 very young kids that needed me closer to home. And so I decided to just, having grown up in the country bushes in Jamaica, you understand it's nothing for me to give up material things and come right down to the basics in order to reprioritize, right? Young kids require attention and care. Otherwise, the system will take care of them for you. Can I tell you? And so I was coming from Walmart this Sunday evening at about 6 Walmart bags, because my kids wouldn't be caught anywhere near the bus with grocery store bags. You understand me? I just missed the bus. I had about 6 bags on my shoulders. It's a Sunday evening in Northeast Brampton. Just missed the bus. It's October. I have about a 40-minute wait for the next bus. And as I'm crossing the street, I felt the hardship of this sacrifice that I had made, because I didn't really know a hard life. You understand me? When I say hard life, I mean my mom. So my mom left me with uncles and aunties and grandparents, and they of course were all hands on deck because my mom wasn't there. And then I joined my mom. My mom was trying to make up for 15 years. So in terms of hardship, I had not known hardship. Let me tell you. And so I really felt it in that moment. And I just remember my grandfather, "You're going to Canada, the land of milk and honey." So I'm always with a notepad and a pen. I sat my bags down on the bench right there at Torbram and Queen Street. And by the time the bus came, I wrote the poem, "The Immigrant Child." And let me tell you about that poem. It has truly placed me on the map, because so many people can identify with the words of that poem.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that, because I listened to the poem and I can identify. By the way, I live in Brampton, so I know exactly where you sat down. Now here's the other question. You've written 3 collections of poetry. What drew you to poetry? How did that come about? Is that the beginning of poetry in your life?
Absolutely. I mean, aside from the very well read child, I was even spelling bee champion. I was really good with words, but this was
you
all
were spelling bee champion.
Year. I was.
You were
I
spelling bee
represented the
champion.
parish. Yes, I represented.
You know, I entered and I failed. I entered and I failed, and I'll never forget the word I failed on. It's agile.
I was
anyway,
about to use the word that I failed on. It was citadel, because of course they pronounce it citadel. So I stood up and said it like it sounds, citadel, and then I heard gong. I always recount that word. Citadel got me out of the race. But yes, certainly all of that was all my early years. You know, I had no aspiration of writing, nothing, no community work outside of just church and home and work and home, nothing. But it was like writing became an outlet, because I was in a state of shock in terms of what had become of my life. You know, when you have big expectations for your life and then you kind of sit down and take stock and you're like, so it was therapy. But I'm very much an extrovert. And let me tell you, as soon as something drops and I think it's beautiful, and I think all the pieces that drops are beautiful, I call someone and I read it. And so throughout the years, "Oh, Nadine, you're so talented. You got to do something with it." And it didn't evolve right away, because that was 1994 that I started writing. And my first entrepreneurial journey was, I had a cleaning, construction cleaning business. I had 9 different GTA builders, but I grew the business too fast, too quick. And so it folded. But I went to an industry event in the building construction industry, and I met a publisher. That's White Sand magazine publisher at the time. And in talking, you know, I'm always networking and telling him how much I love writing and sharing some pieces. He invited me to write an article that came out on 2 pages in his magazine. And once that dropped, from the feedback, he's like, "You got to write a book." And mind you, I've been hearing this all those years. So from the funds, it's a very lucrative business, a cleaning business, let me tell you. Construction cleaning, not the new homes, not the ones that did. So I had some funds. I remember getting carpal tunnel syndrome working for Madame Homes, so many homes that I had going on. And so I had some extra money, and I self-published The Culmination of Marriage Between Me and My Pen. And I have not looked back since. I married my pen. and I'm now on a honeymoon still, very
Yeah.
much in love as I was way back when.
I love that title because we're going to talk about that. I think that is wonderful. We're celebrating Black History Month, and you have written over 14 volumes of literature for Black history. You're also a regular presenter at school and functions.
Yes.
What are you trying to achieve with the curriculum that you produce for Black history? What's the vision behind it?
Trying to have people not just reflect on Black history in the month of February,
Right.
but to have it throughout the year, right?
Right.
So whether it's April in Poetry Month, or June or May, throughout the year, not just, in February, it's like let me tell you, I hardly have time to breathe, and then it just kind of drops off. But
Dies,
this is very Black history is Canadian history, as you well know, and it
Right.
belongs in the schools. It belongs at the fore every day of the year, right? And so this is a way of trying to bring in a lot of culture as well. Like, for example, this Black History Month, it is in celebration of the International Decade for Indigenous Languages. So I do a lot of
Right.
commemorative art
Right.
through the poetry. And then it's a way as well for kids to affirming identity. So speaking and writing in my mother tongue, in Patois. I'll never forget, I visited this one school, done ranking in Malton. I think this was around 2012. And I read a poem called Cursing Lamp in my native tongue. And when all was said and done, he came up to me and he said, "Miss, from my mother carry me come out this cold, cold country. I first me ever hear something sweet. So beg your picture, no?" So the work, should I translate for our audience? From my mother brought me to this very cold country. It's the first I've ever heard something so sweet. Can I have a picture,
Right.
please? And the teacher was marveling at how she saw the light come on in his eyes, how
Right.
excited he was, in that he was having a hard time adjusting. He was being teased and bullied and all of this. So in sharing my stories, in being my own authentic self, I'm allowing others to also feel comfortable in being themselves. So it's a matter of really just trying to infuse, and it don't matter if you're white or you're Black. I've had principals say to me, we don't have enough of a Black population, so we don't
Right.
celebrate History Month. So allowing it's about education, right? So educating people in the fact that it's not just for Black people, it's for all of us, right?
Right.
And it's not so much when we think of Black History Month as well, a lot of times it is centered around the trauma that Black people have endured. And so I try to switch it up. In my earlier years, I'm not telling you that I was this learned, but as
Right.
as I continue to do it, I'm perfecting the art of storytelling and the wisdom that it requires to operate in this space.
Very good. Well, all of us are learning and evolving, so that's good to know. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Please stay with us. We'll be right back with our guest.
Thank you.
Sometimes you walk through life alone, wondering if anyone understands what you are going through, hoping someone will listen and offer a word to make your day. The Church of God of Prophecy offers unconditional love and support, regardless of what you are going through. Visit cogop.ca for a location near you. The Church of God of Prophecy, developing authentic disciples of Christ.
On the Let's Talk television program, we share solutions to real-life problems with real people, showing how faith guides everyone through the storms of life. We talk about tough issues that affect all generations. Our conversations help you learn, grow, and lead. Help us continue with this great work by partnering with us today. Call 905-625-1278, extension 233, or visit letstalkca.org. We look forward to your partnership with us to change lives. Let's Talk, revealing the heart of Christ through engaging media conversations.
Welcome back to Let's Talk. My guest this evening is Nadine Williams, and We are talking about Black History, February's Black History Month. And just before the break, Nadine, you spoke about the literature you've written and to educate not just people in our culture, but people of other cultures. I'd like to ask you, how has your presentation been received by, as we would say, the Caucasian population, people from other cultures? Do you find that that's well received? Because sometimes I think what we find in Black History, when we celebrate Black History Month, if we're not careful, some of the conversations or some of even the events are somewhat what I call tokenism or tokens. How do you find they're receiving what we're trying to put forth?
I have found for the most part that it's been positive. I have principals, administrators that have me as repeat guests over the years. Right. I have had pushback. I've had it runs the gamut. I would definitely say.
Sure. Right.
Some pretty daunting kind of experiences as well. And right. But what I tend to do is just, I don't take it personal. I try hard not to take it personal. I brush it off and I keep going, because I know right. that, as much as there's negativity, there's like 10 times more positivity. And right. so I would say it's been like 95% really positive, but there are, I've seen a few, a few people that's you could tell that it's just like, okay, I've checked the box, let's move on. Right.
And I'm sure you'll get that in everything. So that leads me to my next question.
Yes.
As someone who is a Jamaican Canadian, you are, as some folks, the question I want to ask is about shadeism, and some people may not know what I'm referring to. Shadeism is prejudice or discrimination between people of the same ethnicity, but different, well-tanned than others. So like right. myself, there are people who will say, "You're not a Black man. You're not from my culture." Have you experienced it, and what was that like? How did you deal with it?
I would not say that I have experienced it. I'm not wearing makeup right now, but when I put makeup on, my shade falls, I would say, somewhere in the middle. Right. But certainly I've seen throughout the years, and I've seen it a lot in Jamaica, believe it or not. Where, someone that's really dark, you'll hear they'll acquire some nicknames, Blackie and things like this. Sure. I've seen, like, even in pageantry, in the Miss Jamaica world pageantry, if you follow right. that you will see that a lot of times, like I would say about right. 95% of the times, the females that's put forward are those, light skin. If you think of Lisa Hanna, if you think of Yendi Phillips, and so that truly, but again, like I said, we're evolving as a people. Yes. We are coming from a long legacy of oppression and systems that's told us certain things, and so there's a lot of unlearning that has to happen. I make sure that if I ever see, like, you'll catch me oftentimes in deep dialogue on when I see these things, because I'm quick-tongued. I will I'm not shy to call things out when I see them. And so
I like that.
I'm not shy. I am not shy. So if anybody had trouble, you just call me. I should be a lawyer, let me tell you. But yes, so I certainly, I speak up if I see it. But I would not say I've experienced it personally myself. No.
Well, you're being true to your culture in the sense that you're a real Jamaican. Now, tell me about the quilt project, the Fabrica for Being project. Tell us about that.
This is my baby. The fabric of our being
Yes.
it was my 2017 Black History Month poster. And the poem,
Right.
I probably won't have time to read the poem, but it speaks about being tightly woven into Canada's fabric, right? Generations
Right.
strong.
Mhm.
We've been here for a
Yes.
while. So I decided
Right.
to resurrect. So it was in celebration of the International Decade for people of African
Okay.
descent, as well as Canada 150. Remember, I told you I'm big on commemorative art.
Yes.
That
Yes.
whole year, I found hardly anyone could put up their hands to say they'd heard of the International Decade. And I'm talking large and small audiences, right? Even some
Right.
government officials, people that you would think would be aware, were
Right.
unaware. So I realized normally around like by May or so, I start to get really creative with projects that can keep me throughout the summer that'll ensure I'm back around for schools come September. And so I decided to resurrect the poster. And the original design was out of a quilt. And we know quilts tell stories. And it is
Oh,
this,
yes. For sure.
it was an important thing in and still is in African Canadian, not as I don't think I think it's some of it has lost kind of more to the older generation that you'll
Right.
find are into quilting. So I decided to resurrect it and to install it at airports across Canada. This was my original
Right.
idea to bring awareness, right? If we don't know
Yes.
of it, how can we even go about enacting its theme of recognition, development, and justice if we don't even know we're in it? So, and the
Right.
decade was moving on, right? So in that work that I did, I'm proud to say Canada recognized it the following year in January 2018, and that was thanks in part, a small little part, because of the work I've done with that. The
Right.
UN has also been inviting me down to different celebratory events in New York because of that work. It was at that time as well that I stumbled upon the Historic Sites and Monuments Board of Canada, something that's
Oh.
pretty life-changing in that so their responsibility is to designate historical persons, events, and sites in Canada of historical significance. And there's a clause in the proclamation that states erecting monuments at arrival
Okay.
and departure points in countries that's benefited from the
Right.
transatlantic slave trade. So I got to thinking,
Right.
who's responsible for erecting monuments? That's where it led me there. I nominated the enslavement of Africans in Canada to be a historical significant event. Huge. And it was
Very
designated.
good.
I also
Very
nominated
good.
the Indian domestic scheme that was also designated last year. I
Wow.
nominated George Dixon, a boxer out of Nova Scotia.
Right.
And that was
Mhm.
designated, actually, no, I'm lying. It wasn't last year. It feels like it was 2020 that those designations dropped.
Okay. Okay.
I
Well,
might be off, but in any case, so I have 3 that's been designated, and I have about 8 now sitting before the board,
very
and
good.
8 pretty significant ones as well. Once those drop, you guys will hear about it because they're pretty
Right.
significant.
Right. Very
And
good.
yes, so the project, I'm still underway with it. I'm working with schools. The pandemic it's supposed to be an international installation, but the pandemic
Right.
has really allowed me to focus on the local market for now. But I have huge plans for it.
Very good.
Thanks.
Very good. Now you've opened for Michelle Obama, Canada's former Governor General, Prime Ministers of both Canada and Jamaica. What was
Yes,
that
sir.
like for this young woman who came from Jamaica and the Ills in Jamaica, and now you're opening for some of these famous people? What was that like?
I am now what they call the presidential poet. As exciting as it wasn't.
Yes.
As exciting as it was, Bishop Thompson, it wasn't. I wasn't shell shocked, and this is because of the upbringing that I've had. So remember now, I've had an audience throughout my whole childhood, whether it's
Right.
the
Right.
neighbors or in church or what have you. So
Of course.
I've been on stage from my eyes were at my knees, and so certainly it's the honor of it is not lost on me. I'm immensely grateful, but it
Right.
was
Right.
very
Right.
much like just going on. I wouldn't say any stage, but it doesn't, like, you put me on any stage, it has the same kind of feel. It doesn't, like, I don't get outside of myself, if that makes any kind of sense. So I'm excited.
right.
And I mean, I met
No, I
Mrs.
understand.
Obama and got a picture with her. She wrote me a letter because I gifted her my book, With This Pen I Do Tell. And she wrote to me thanking me for the book. So that book sits in the presidential library of Mrs. Obama's library. So I'm excited for that. So I consider
Very
these
good.
events huge honors, because I know not everyone's afforded this. But at the same time, I'm not giddy headed, because
Understood.
I have a
Yeah,
level head. Yes.
I do understand. Now, we mentioned that you've written several books, and of course, you've mentioned one of them, but one that I was interested in, the title is I Am Tired of Living Dead. Domestic Violence, a secret killer that
No, that one's not mine. That's another Nadine Williams.
Oh, it's
I
another
was
Nadine
Googling.
Williams. Okay.
Yes, it's okay. I was
Okay.
Googling the other day and I saw that as well.
They
I'm
put
not
that
that.
under your profile. Okay. Now tell me about the one that you wrote that talks about your pen. I think that's
Yes.
amazing as well.
The culmination of marriage between me and my pen. So the idea is that with every great relationship, you build it and then you culminate it in marriage. Right. So it's a metaphor, really. But I had been building this relationship with my pen since starting the writing in 1994. And so putting it all together in the book is essentially the marriage commitment. And
Very good.
long.
Now, you mentioned the fact that.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that. You mentioned the fact that you're a person who attends church, so I'm assuming you're a person of faith.
Absolutely.
Would you say that faith has played a pivotal role, not only with your family dynamics, but with who you are today? That faith
absolutely
carried you through the difficulties in life to the place you are today?
I would definitely say so. I wrote a song, or I made up a song, actually. If it wasn't November, it was December, when the Honorable Jean Augustine called me to inform me that I was nominated to be among the 100 accomplished Black Canadian women. And I remember that night, as I stepped in the shower, all I could do was sing, Lord, you are more than good, you are great. Better than great, you are awesome. Never in my life could I attain such heights without your awesomeness. I'm absolutely a person of faith. The Lord has carried me through many a rough waters. I wouldn't be who I am, or wouldn't be here without him. And so all praise is due unto him.
Well, I'd like to thank Nadine for joining us. I enjoyed that song she was singing for us, but somehow it seemed like, oh, there you are.
Hi. Did you catch this song?
Welcome back, Nadine.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did catch the song, but we lost you for just a second. Anyway, we're running out of time, but one last thing. Pardon me?
Yes. No, I was saying I can sing it again, but I understand you're running out of time.
No, we're almost out of time. One last thing would be wondering, man, I wish that I could find my way like that. I could find my path like that. You know, growing up in Jamaica, there are lots of young women who are aspiring for great things in life. What would you say to someone who has that aspiration of using their talents, their gifts and abilities?
Just be consistent, and also don't be shy to give it away. I made up this song the other day. Art isn't art until you give it away. It'll come right back to you tenfold. So, you know, you have to cultivate. It's like any seed that's planted, right? It doesn't just sprout up overnight. You have to be dedicated. It'll have to be akin to a marriage commitment. So commit to it and cultivate it. Give it your all, and it will bear fruit. It'll bear magnificent fruit.
Very good. Well, that's scriptural. If you want to be blessed, give away what you have, whether it's your resources or your talent, give it away. Nadine, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We enjoy having you, and all the best for all the Black History presentation that you'll be doing for this month. And may God continue to bless and enrich your life. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening and a happy Black History Month. Thank you for thinking of me.
Thank you. Well, folks, that's all the time that we have for this evening. I hope that you've learned something about Black history. We're continuing the celebration for this month, and hope that you will continue to educate yourself and to make sure that you're part of the celebration, part of the educational process. Would like to also remind you that tomorrow is Family Day. I hope that you'll spend some time with your family. Sometimes we're so busy we don't get to spend enough time with our families, and so tomorrow is Family Day for those of us who live in this region. So enjoy it. And lastly, remember, Nadine said that she could not achieve what she achieved without her faith. And so I'd like to encourage you that if you're not a person of faith, that is faith in Jesus Christ, that you'll just seek to know him, cry out to him, call upon him. He will transform your life, and you'll do things in your life that no other person can. May God continue to bless and to enrich your lives. Have a happy Family Day, and we'll see you next time. Let's keep talking.
On the Let's Talk television program, we share solutions to real-life problems with real people, showing how faith guides everyone through the storms of life. We talk about tough issues that affect all generations. Our conversations help you learn, grow, and lead. Help us continue with this great work by partnering with us today. Call 905-625-1278, extension 233, or visit letstalkca.org. We look forward to your partnership with us to change lives. Let's Talk, revealing the heart of Christ through engaging media conversations.
Sometimes you walk through life alone, wondering if anyone understands what you are going through, hoping someone will listen and offer a word to make your day. The Church of God of Prophecy offers unconditional love and support, regardless of what you are going through. Visit cogop.ca for a location near you. The Church of God of Prophecy, developing authentic disciples of Christ.